prophecywatchers.com/Jews. I made it real easy. And I have, I deal with all of that stuff. I have 5 or 6 different genetic studies, like peer-reviewed articles on there, that show these are the people. There's, and even biblically, is there a difference between Hebrew and Jew and Israel? And I show, what does the Bible say? So I have an article on that. So to me, it's like, wow. But I find that there's so much ignorance out there, and that it becomes controversial when in reality, you look at even the history of modern Israel and the legality of what international law, going back to the Balfour Declaration, all the way along. Anyway, it doesn't need to be controversial, but why would we be surprised that here this is something God had predicted in his word, Ezekiel 36 and 37 and other Isaiah 11, a lot of passages, that he would be bringing his people back after a long time of hiatus as we approach the end of the age. They're here for a reason. But yet I would not be surprised then the world would come against those facts, those claims. And we also see as well, like the United Nations, man, they love condemning Israel and passing resolutions like, man, you guys are the bias is that's what I'm ultimately saying. The bias is so stunning, but yet this is why I appreciate two things of what you've done in the films. Number one is to talk about just the people, because as we know, oftentimes there's a lot of anti-Semitism right now, and the Jewish people, not only everywhere, but especially in Israel, being like vilified. And so here you get to come in and just share, hey, these aren't the villains that you think that they are. Let's just talk about this. But then secondly, one of the stats that you mentioned was that only 2% of Christians will ever actually take the time to go to the land of Israel. And so as a Christian, you read the Bible and you're like, but for them to see, again, the cinematography that you guys have done is just outstanding. They might not ever see it. So I appreciate both of those angles that you guys have done here.
Thank you. That came as some of the motivations and some of the realizations of like, wow, God's allowing us to do this as we're doing it. It wasn't like a big master plan. After we'd released the first movie, I realized, and I did some research on this, it's true. Less than 2% of any follower of Jesus on the earth today is ever going to go to Israel. Now, a lot of that is because it's not so accessible and it's expensive and things like that. But Israel is, for a Christian, Israel is so integral to our faith. It's the land, the people, the book. It's so we have this, I feel like, mission that God's given us, which is to tell these stories about the land and then to spread that story out into the entire earth, because there's so many people that are disconnected, and not, as you know, not every church even acknowledges modern day Israel or the Jewish people. And so in some ways we have to get to all the individuals and all the families, and then once they fall in love with Israel and the Jewish people, then maybe it goes up, and then their pastor says, oh, maybe this is something we should talk about. I happen to go to a fantastic church here in Nashville, which is World Outreach Church with Pastor Alan Jackson. And that's a shining example of a church that it's Israel and the Jewish people and the promises of God are interwoven into like every single service. And it's amazing. But not everybody has a church like that they can go to. So we're also talking about getting these stories out all over Europe and all over Africa, all just everywhere. So that's one of the missions that God's given us. Going back to what we were saying about, all of a sudden there's this trend of people accusing the Jewish people of not actually being the real Jewish people or the chosen people or children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's a new thing. Unless I'm wrong, that's a brand new thing. And I think it's everything that's happening is all spiritual. And I feel like because Israel, let me think about it. During the Holocaust, nobody on planet Earth said, oh, all the people that are being executed, those are fake Jews. Those aren't actually, like, no one ever even thought of that. No one said that. But now that Israel is strong and they have a very powerful air force and they have an army and they're secure in the land, all these things that haven't been an issue all of a sudden are coming up. And I think it's because the enemy is essentially working overtime because he's losing so badly right now.
Yeah, that is a perfect way to say it. And you see as well, some of the churches that are very anti-Israel, modern Israel, and they forget that, and they'll minimize the land. I mean, this is in the Bible. This is God's land. It's his land. He owns it, and he has given the rights to the people of Israel, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, going back Genesis 12, 13, 15, 17, and people can look this up. And he gave it to this guy and Isaac and Jacob, the covenant, forever. And so, yes, we understand that you read the Old Testament, even though they were chosen. I say this often, chosen doesn't always mean saved. I mean, it means set apart. There's no doubt. Read the book of Judges. These weren't godly people all the time. God called them stiff-necked, right? But so I think people, they get stuck in these modern things. You go, look, again, God loves them. He's working with them. But yes, he kicked them out of the land twice for his own reasons. But he never revoked the covenants that he made and the promises. And that's what I appreciate so much, is what you've shown here is ultimately, this is about the promises and the faithfulness of God to not only this land, but this people. And they have a future. And obviously he's brought them back after 1,878 years for his own reasons. And of course, prophecy is being fulfilled in what they've done to the land, how much they love the land. And this is, of course, as we know, this is the root of salvation history. There was a guy, it wasn't Jesus of Brooklyn or Jesus of Paris, it was Jesus of Nazareth. So salvation history is making itself known not only in ancient times and in the time of Jesus, but in the future. Here we are. Like, this is all, it's just phenomenal. So let's for the sake of the first film, I want to talk about some of the details of that. But for those, I want to let the people see the trailer. And so this is going to go on some of our podcasts that are audio only. So you'll hear this, but if you want to see it, I'm going to encourage you to go to David's YouTube channel where you can see the trailers there. So where would they find you on YouTube?
On YouTube, if you punch in "I am Israel," it'll absolutely come up. Not only the trailer, but different scenes. They can also go to our website, and we have the movie trailers on iamisraelfilm.com.
Perfect. Okay, so let's take a little watch of trailer number 1 for the first film.
For nearly 2 millennia, the promised land of the Bible was a barren wasteland. Its archaeological ruins a reminder of its glorious history. Its people scattered throughout the 4 corners of the world. But towards the end of the 19th century, things began to change.
I think we have a privilege of seeing with our own eyes the words of the book materializing and becoming a reality.
ELO 25 and director David Kiern invite you on an incredible journey to discover the beauty of the land of the Bible and meet the people who call this place home.
Everybody that will come to Israel, touch the land and touch the people, it will change his life.
To me, Israel is family. It's home.
Israel is, to me, my dream, my hope, my future.
I think I'm privileged to have grown up in a land where my grandfather, where his parents, where his forefathers only dreamed of seeing built one day.
I remember when we start to play in the vineyards, all the experts says it's not going to work, nothing will grow here.
God says, mountain, shoot forth your branches, give forth your fruit, my children are coming home. Every fruit you see is prophecy fulfilled.
It's something that people couldn't have imagined 50 years ago.
Something is happening of historic proportions.
It says, I will bring you in from the 4 corners of the earth, and people will know that you are my people and that I am your God.
Discover for yourself the miracle of the land and the courageous hearts of the people of Israel.
I am 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 Israel. To me, Israel is the best proof God exists and still acting in our world.
Visit IamIsraelFilm.com to begin your journey.